Can anybody in the Saudi Pro League stop Al Nasser? I'm not sure. I've come on here live. I've really tried to commit to YouTube on the Saudi Pro League. I'm pretty consistent on Instagram, pretty consistent on TikTok, but struggle with the YouTube. So I thought to myself, "Do you know what? I'm just going to go live and talk because I know I can do this. And rather than the edit and try and make it the perfect thing, I've decided once a week, every single Monday after the weekend, I am going to come live and talk about the Saudi Pro League. My name's Harry Hedges. I've been watching the Saudi Pro League for over 3 years now. I'll talk on that in a second. And I'm not just saying this. You can go back in time and you can watch my TikTok back in time. But when I first started watching it, just by looking at the type of players that were being bought, I said, "Oof, Ruben Neves, Mitrovic. I really fancy Halal to win it 2 years ago." And they did under Jorge Jesus, and they had that unbelievable undefeated streak, and they absolutely walked away with it. Last season, based on the transfers that went to the Saudi Pro League, I looked at Stephen Bergwijn, I looked at Moussa Diaby, I looked at Hossam Awar. I always say his name one thing, Hossam Awar, and I thought to myself, "Oh, that looks pretty tasty as well." And I predicted, despite Halal being so dominant the season before, I predicted that Etihad would win the Saudi Pro League, and they did. I'm a massive fan of N'Golo Kante, and yeah, just fantastic achievement Etihad last year. And this season, and you can honestly, you can go back in time and watch it. I looked at it and I thought to myself, João Felix, Kingsley Coman, Inigo Martinez, even Jorge Jesus going there. We know that NASSR's defense in the past has not been good enough. And you could also argue that it wasn't really it wasn't designed that way. Players like Cristiano Ronaldo aren't necessarily going to defend from the front and what have you. But if you could just tidy that up, and we know what way Jorge Jesus was at Halal, that he would be able to do that, that the firepower and particularly the introduction of João Felix, which I think, it is an upgrade on Otavio. It is an upgrade. Kingsley Coman is an upgrade on Talisca Anderson, that they would cause lots of problems. And here we are. And look, it's early into the season. They've won every game and they're not conceding many goals and they're scoring a lot. And there's there's a really big feel good factor around Al Nassr at the moment. And so there should be even Cristiano Ronaldo getting his 950 goals. He's hunting that down now. I thought the victory against Etihad was the big statement. Going to Etihad in Jeddah and getting a 2-0 victory there. And I watched the game, and honestly, like Etihad, they weren't in it. It was men versus boys in that game. And I think that was the first time. Any team that wins a title, there's always one game where you go, oh, they look proper. It reminds me of talking about Saudi Pro League. It reminds me of Riyad Mahrez when he played for Leicester. I remember they went to the Etihad and they beat City. I think it was 3-1, and he scored a goal. He scored a wonderful sort of cut inside and rifled it in. And when he did that, that was like, oh my God, Leicester are going to win the league, because you don't go to Man City and do this sort of performance. And they did. I remember Arsenal in our Invincible season. We didn't actually start the season that well. We drew a few games. We went to Anfield and we went 1-0 down. And, that team is in folklore now as like the legendary Invincibles. But we were 1-0 down about 10 minutes ago. And I think Henry scored. But then I remember Robert Perez scored an unbelievable goal into the top corner. This was like this sort of time of year, sort of November time. And I was like, we're going to win the league. Because certain performances just stand out in that way. And NASSR doing that to Etihad. A bit like Halal 2 years ago when they beat Etihad away 4-3. Mitrovic scored a hat-trick. A bit like that. It was like, ooh, that feels different. That feels like something's happening here. And yeah, I just think that that's something that happens each season. And look, it's early doors. I'm going to talk about the team that I think can catch them. You've got to look at Halal and go, okay, Inzaghi, new ideas there. It's taken a little while to structure. Obviously, they had the World Club Championship as well. So there's been a bit of a, post World Club Championship, there's been a bit of a dip in form. Maybe they had some very intense games there against Man City, and obviously lost to Palmeiras in the next round after that. Real Madrid as well, of course. And Al Hilal were going for that competition. They really were. They wanted to win that competition. And for them to start so intensely, maybe you might have felt there might have been a bit of a dip. If you look at Man City and Chelsea, for example, in the Premier League, again, two sides that have had a bit of a dip. They've had a bit of a dip in form in the early start of the season. Can they get that going again? But also a new manager, Inzaghi, is going to have new ideas, Jorge Jesus. And the only thing I'd say about Halal is the squad depth, okay? When there is an injury, that the fall down seems to be quite heavy. Now, you could argue, look, if NASSR lose Ronaldo, for example, the fall down can be quite heavy after losing John Duran, but you think that maybe they might put Mane out front or mix it up a little bit. But yeah, that's Halal, I think, need to have the perfect season with all their players fit. You look at, and I think they're the ones that will run them closest. You look at Al Ali, the Champions League winners, and look, they on their day, they can beat anybody. You know, they are the real curveball of the Saudi Pro League because they didn't have a great season last year, but then they go and win the Champions League. They're a bit. They remind me of Chelsea. They're that sort of team where on their day they can beat anybody, but when it comes to sometimes just a bit like this weekend, just dropping silly points, that's going to hurt them over the course of time. I can't see it. I think they'd have to put a really good run together, but they're probably 2 or 3 players short of sustaining a title run. But again, on their day, and as the Champions League proved, they can beat anybody. Etihad just do not look like the same side this year. They don't. They look like a team that won the league last year and aren't that bothered this year. And that happens to teams. That happens. It's very, it's been proven in history in all football seasons, other than some of the Bundesliga and Paris Saint-Germain, where they've got one real standout side. But it's been very much proven it's very hard to win the league twice in a row. And what people underestimate about the Saudi Pro League, if you are watching this and you're someone who's never watched it, it's a super competitive league. Those top 4 teams, and even look Qadsiya, look at Al Tawoun at the moment in second place. These are teams that do ruffle. The Premier League is a bit like that, right? Look at Bournemouth and Sunderland are currently in the top 4. It's crazy, but they tend to. Everyone finds their place. But in the Saudi Pro League, on a who can win it basis, and it's been proven, right? It's gone Halal, Etihad, and we're looking at very, very likely NASSR. I want to really get across again. It's extremely early days. It does not mean that this is going to be the talking point end of the season, but NASSR look dangerous because they've got that perfect combination where they're scoring lots of goals and they're not conceding many. And that combination can get you very, very far in football. They got like I said, they got the feel-good factor. I feel like Ronaldo was a big part in getting João Felix to come along. I think he knows that he works very well with him. Ronaldo in the past has, I think of Mesut Ozil at Real Madrid. I think of Rooney at Manchester United. Sometimes he operates with certain players extremely well. I think that gives Ronaldo a new lease of life. We've seen him in last season, for example, when Ronaldo loses his temperament. He can, he's such a big winner. He's such someone who wants to win all the time that he can struggle to hold it together sometimes. And that has a real bad impact on the team because, again, defensively, if he's not defending from the front, which he doesn't do that much of anymore anyway, but it can just, I don't know. When you're at school and there's like a guy who's clearly got a big status, and if he's not firing, it tends to bring everyone else down. I think that happens maybe a couple of times under Ronaldo. But he's feeling good. He's scoring good. Everyone's got that feel-good factor. All eyes are on NASSR because of Ronaldo. And I think the João Felix effect. I think the Kingsley Coman effect. I think the Inigo Martinez effect. I think, this is going to really, really... Simakan at the back. What a signing he's proven to be. Under the radar. And that's another thing worth talking about is that the Saudi Pro League, I think of Simakan. I think of Enzo Milot. These sort of guys who have come in super under the radar, and it's really good to see the Saudi Pro League teams getting that recruitment right. I think that's been the biggest story of the season so far, in my opinion, is that some of these new transfers that Premier League teams maybe looked at, weren't sure on, good age profile, sort of in their mid-20s, really impacting the league positively. I mean, I know Simakan didn't sign that he signed last year, but Angelo Gabriel as well, from Chelsea, great signing from NASSR, really, really proving his worth in the league. More so in and out of the team, hasn't sort of solidified starting, but you can tell there's quality there. And the more of those sort of players that come through, the better this league becomes. The more competitive it is with these teams. We don't want NASSR to run away with it. We want Halal to get back into it because we want it to be competitive. And we want a Riyadh derby under the lights. I don't know when the second game is, but I'm assuming it'll be March, April time towards the end of the season. You want something. You want 5 or 6 points in it. You want something on it. If NASSR go like Halal did a couple of years ago and they go 20, 30 points, maybe not 30 points, 15, 20 points clear, it does affect the league. Like, I joined watching this league 2 years ago in that first season with Halal, and you naturally switch off because you know the season's over, right? And it's something that is just such a healthy thing for the league. Look at leagues like Scotland, even Germany to a certain extent. France, it doesn't have that. If Saudi Pro League can keep that competitive spirit up, get the recruitment right, which they are, and obviously have the odd big faces coming in, then of course all eyeballs will continue to be on the Saudi Pro League. And once the infrastructure comes in place in the other stadiums and the World Cup, start filling out some of the lower league stadiums, because that's something that in the British media we well, not me, but as in like the British media over here like to kind of attach that no one's watching it because the stadiums are empty. No, it's just the lower league stadiums, and of course that's a geographical thing. It's a time of day thing, and yeah, they are small clubs. You know, that's for sure. But yeah, I look at Qadsiya, I look at Etifak, I mean, Shabab aren't a small club, but I look at these sort of teams that are Tawoon, who are really pushing into Khalid, really investing well. These are teams that I think are the next, and that's what we want to. It's not going to be suddenly every team is perfect, right? It's going to be the big four. Then you got the Qadsiya, Etifak, Shababs, and then the Khalijas and the Tawoons come along as well. And suddenly you've got a top half. And if you look at the Premier League in the last kind of couple of years or so, well, not a couple of years, 10 years or so, there's been an established top half. That's normal in any league, right? But you just don't want it to be 4 or 5. You want it to be 10s, 11s, 12s. And yeah, anyway, I kind of digress from my point, and I suppose that's going to happen on lives. But with me, can anybody stop Al Nassr this season? In my opinion, no, but I said that at the beginning of the season. Will there be a title challenge? I hope so. I think there will be. I think Halal will get their act together, and they've shown signs of that in recent weeks. Again, the World Club Championship, getting used to Inzaghi's tactics. There's already signs that that's starting to click a bit more now. They're getting them more sort of 2-0 sort of victories, which is a good Champions League, good championship winning performances. And yeah, like I say, hopefully it's a tight season, because that's definitely what we want as part of the Saudi Pro League. Guys, all the best from me. Every Monday, I'm aiming forward to go live on here, talk about what's going on. I'll do more of a weekend recap with all the games each week, but I just wanted to kind of reintroduce myself onto YouTube. And yeah, please, if you have any questions, use the comments. I'll always reply back to you. It's not a big channel at the moment. That's part of its charm. And yeah, we will go again. See you soon. Bye-bye.